Alright, welcome back to the Crabby Dice, where we talk through and rant about crowdfunding campaigns. Before we start this video, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone out there. Hopefully your 2021 will be better than the dumpster fire that was 2020. Now, even though 2020 was a crazy year in life, the one positive aspect of 2020 was the crowdfunding side of things. Just a lot of really robust, good-looking games came out on the crowdfunding scene in 2020, and hopefully you didn't lose your shirt or go broke trying to back these projects. Remember, you don't need to back everything, just back the ones you really like. So for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably have a multi-part series here, just a couple of parts here. So I have some top 5, top 10 categories I just want to go through and talk about, some positive, some negative type of list. Let's just have some fun. So you guys can let me know in the comments below what you would put in your list, and if you want me to tackle some of the different categories that I didn't really think of, or other top 5s. All right, so for this one, pretty simple. Oh, before we start, very important, I'm gonna have a couple of caveats here. One big caveat is no reprints on any of my lists, just because those are known quantities. It'll be pretty boring just to talk about reprints or games that we already know that are good. Second is I'm going to try not to put any expansions as well on most of my lists, just because, again, expansions are boring to talk about unless you really know the base game. And my third massive caveat, you don't have to follow this one, but because of the filtering system on tabletop analytics, it's hard to search for games that didn't make at least $100,000 or have at least 1,000 backers, just because the site sort of bombs if you try to go too far back. So I'm really sorry about those games that don't fit those criteria, unfortunately. All right, so this one's going to be a really positive list. It's going to be a top 10 games of that were crowdfunded in 2020 that I'm the most excited to get down on the table. Now I am going to break this off into 2 separate top 5s. So there's going to be the top 5 games that I actually backed, that put my money towards, that I'm excited to get to the table, and then there's another top 5 just to have a more interesting discussion, because I could have had a top 10 of games that I just backed, but I'm going to have a top 5 of games I didn't back that I'm still really excited to get down to the table, and that'll be a more interesting discussion because I can also talk about why I didn't back it, but why I'm still excited to get them down to the table. All right, so let's get started with the list. All right, so to get started with the list of games that I backed, I'm going to be doing a lot of cheating on my list. All right, so you don't have to follow what I'm saying. I'm actually going to have a top 6 with an honorable mention here with the ones that I did back, because I did back a lot of games, and I just would like to talk about games in general, so let's just talk about it. All right, so my number 6 is going to be an honorable mention. It's going to be exploration games, because at the moment I don't have any exploration games, I believe, in my collection anymore. I traded them all away. So I did back 2 really big long campaign exploration games in 2020, and I think a lot of people are going to have these on their list. It's going to be 7 Citadel and Hell the Last Saga as my honorable mention number 6. Now these are at their core exploration games. You're going to be exploring the world around you, but they play completely different. All right, so 7 Citadel here is more of a tile playing game, where you're playing the square cards, where you're going to be sort of exploring the world. It's also a hand management game where you're going to be playing cards from your hand. There's also a sort of push your luck game where you're trying to draw to get stars to try to succeed on the different tasks that you're trying to do. So it's a very simple game, easy to get into. It's based on 7 Continent, which is a known quantity and a game that's in the top 20 on BGG at this point. So it's a really, really recognized great game. Some things that they added from the 7 Continent side of things is there's this whole map board where you're gonna be sliding in cards, which is a really cool system that we saw in True Bag Legends. So I'm really excited for this one. Now when we go to Hell the Last Saga, plays completely different, but its core concept is exactly the same. You're going to be doing a lot of exploring, but on this one it looks more like a dudes on a map game. You're going to take your figurines, you're going to be exploring the hexagonal boards, so it's not like revealing tiles, but you're going to be doing a lot of combat. All right, a lot more combat than in 7 Citadel. You're going to be fighting off the minions attacking your village and stuff like that, but still trying to explore the area and figuring out what happened to the other explorers that came to this island and all disappeared. All right, other big differences between the 2 games is this one has a large swath of different characters you're going to be using throughout the game, and every campaign it'll tell you which ones you need to bring along, whereas 7 Citadel, you're going to be controlling your character and leveling them up by getting better cards throughout the game. Right, so completely different games, but at their core just good solid exploration games. Now if somebody were to ask me, my buddy asked me, which one am I more excited about to play and get down to the table? I'm not sure. I think I would go with 7 Citadel just because it's a known quantity and it will be good. I mean, I don't see how they can mess this up after just making a 2.0 version of 7 Continent, right? So this one will be probably the more robust game. I also worry a bit about Mythic Games. They've had troubles in the past with you know, their rule books, issues with the gameplay, and issues with the cards and some text and some translation and all that sort of stuff, right? So, you know, still looking forward to it, but I would lean more towards 7 Citadel if you were on the fence and you had to back only one of the two games. All right, so now let's get down to the real top 5. All right, so my number 5 is going to be Stars of Akarios, where, you know, if you funded it back in the day, it was called Starlight, but this time they changed the name throughout the campaign here, and it's now called Stars of Akarios. And not a lot of people are talking about this one, even though it raised a ton of money. They're currently in their beta. So you can go on YouTube and look for Stars of Akarios beta, and there's a ton of videos. You know, they're doing a ton of work, a ton of play testing on this game. I have no doubt that it's going to be a good game. These are also a first-time publisher. They are Canadian as well, that I like to mention. So I'm really looking forward to this one. So if you don't know what this is, let me scroll down a little bit. Try to find you a good picture. So here we go. So it's like a dogfighting game in space, but it's a campaign game. So you're going to be going from dogfight to dogfight, sort of like instead of doing Gloomhaven missions where it's dungeon, dungeon, dungeon. This is going to be more dogfight, dogfight, dogfight. But it plays really well. It's got some great Euro mechanisms baked in. Every round you're going to be rolling your dice. You're going to be doing a dice placement on your own board, and it's going to be how you maneuver your ship and how you shoot. You're going to be doing a ton of leveling up, upgrading your ship throughout the game, you know, getting better guns, better movement, better abilities, better everything, changing your ship, just a lot of upgrading because it is a campaign game as you go. It also has a robust, really good AI system. They pretty much copied that straight out of Gloomhaven, so that's great. But also, not only are you just doing that, there's also a side story where instead of just doing the dogfighting, you know, between missions or every couple missions, your pilot's actually going to get out of a ship and you're going to sort of be doing this exploration game, exploring again on another game, on the base or the planet, and you're going to be moving your pilot around, and that's a whole push your luck dice game as well, where you're going to be going around doing the more of the story type thing, going around the base, discovering the story and all that stuff. Now that system, oddly enough, reminds me exactly of ISS Vanguard. So, you know, it's really funny that this game's sort of side system is ISS Vanguard, which is kind of interesting. Not as robust as that game, you know, I'm sort of being hyperbolic here, but it is sort of using the same type of push your luck dice game thing. All right, so this one I'm really looking forward to. It looks to be a good one, and hopefully we'll get it in 2021 because they're on the beta now, and hopefully they'll print it out soon. All right, also let me just talk about value quick about all these games that I'm going to be talking about in this top 10. The value for this was pretty much out of this world. You could have got the core box and all the minis for 110 USD, which is a phenomenal value. You get over 40 miniatures, over 1,000 cards, you know, 130 pages of story. You get a ton of stuff. Or you could have got all in with less than 200 bucks, and you would have got the play mat and all that stuff as well. Really crazy value for what you get in the box. Let me just talk about it for Hell. Hell was probably one of the, I'll probably have a top 5 best values of the year. Hell is definitely going to be on that list. Hell was kind of insane. For 130 bucks, you got pretty much the whole game. There's nothing else to back. All right, everything else that you could have backed on this game were just like fluff stuff, like organizers or different games or whatever it is, and you pretty much get the whole game for 130 bucks. You get over 100 minis, over 1,000 cards, just a lot of stuff. And 7 Citadel was a solid value. Was about 80 bucks for the collector's edition, which almost everything, you know, there was a lot of add-ons that you can add on to make it quite expensive, but you don't have to get all those add-ons. So you get a lot of gameplay for just 80 bucks, just over 1,200 cards, just a lot of content in that box. Sorry. All right, let's go down to my number 4. Here, my number 4 is, I don't know if this is a cheat or not, because I said I wouldn't add any reprints or expansions on my list here, but alright. But my number 4 is going to be Steampunk Rally Fusion, which is technically a 2.0 for Steampunk Rally. I mean, it's the same system, the same mechanisms. It's essentially just other cards and other maps that you can play on. You can just shuffle all these cards into the base game and play with all of them without having to change any of the rules. So I don't know if that's a cheat or not, but anyway, I'm really looking forward to this game. Steampunk Rally is by far my favorite racing game. What you can be doing is racing your inventor across the map here, but it's all Euro mechanisms thrown in. It's not rolling your dice and seeing what happens. What you can be doing is it's sort of a drafting game, and you're drafting for the parts you're going to be putting on your invention. And then you're going to have this whole dice placement phase where you're going to be placing the dice on your invention, and those parts will tell you how far you move, what your special abilities are going to be. You're venting dice, if you're shielding, just a ton of different abilities. You do have all these cards as well that you can play, grappling hooks and all that stuff, so it's really dynamic gameplay and pretty simple rule set. Whoever gets to the end of the race is going to win the race. All right, so my favorite racing game. Really looking forward to this, and we should be getting it in early 2021, so that's great. All right, my number 3 is going to be Planet Unknown. All right, and this one is going to be on the list because it is going to be the polyomino tiling killer in my collection. Just gonna say it out there. I did end up playing this one on Tabletop Simulator, and it is fantastic. I think it's the only game that I went out of my way to play because I just wanted to make sure I really liked the game before backing it. And like I said, this is a polyomino tiling game, but it's got some really great mechanisms. When you place your tile in, you're going to be going up some tracks, going up your own tracks, and all the tracks are different between all the players. And those tracks, you're going to be getting bonuses for more tiles, more bonuses, little tokens you're putting on your board to score points and all that good stuff. But it's got a really great interaction mechanism where the first player is actually going to pick which tile they want to pick, and this is a lazy Susan. So after they pick their tile, they're going to rotate it so that the tile that they pick is in front of them. So let's say this player really wanted this tile, all right? And then every other player can only choose between the two tiles that are right in front of them at that point, right? Because this thing keeps rotating around the board. So that's a really interesting gameplay mechanisms, and I really want to see how that lazy Susan works in real life. I think it's going to be really interesting. All right, so that's going to be my number 3. Planet Unknown. Just to talk about value here, for this one, it was an okay value. I think it was $70, but you get all the components in plastic, miniatures and all that, and everything is dual layer boards and triple layer boards, and you get this awesome lazy Susan, so the value was pretty good. All right, my number 2, which I'm pretty sure almost everyone is going to have on their list here, is going to be Ankh, Gods of Egypt from CMON Games. So where do we even start on this one? I think what I'm going to say just to start off is I'm not a CMON apologist or even somebody who likes CMON games. I sort of tend to hate a lot of the stuff that they put out, the zombie sides, the massive darkness. I really don't like the gameplay on their dungeon crawl side, what they put out, but you know what, I really was pulled in by Blood Rage. Rising Sun is a fantastic game, and this one seems to fall in line to be the third in the trilogy. And honestly, looking at the rulebook and the playthroughs, this in my mind seems to be the better of the 3 games. It seems to be the most robust with a better rule set, even though Blood Rage is the simpler game, so that one's probably easier to take down to the table. But either way, this one just looks phenomenal. You know, you're going to play a god, you have different powers, you're going to be evolving the map board, fighting your other opponents. Another reason I'm really looking forward to this one is the whole expansion part of it. All right, so just to make things clear here, the expansions for Blood Rage and Rising Sun, besides one module on each of those, were kind of on the garbage side, let's be honest. They were just a lot of fluff and didn't add a lot of good decision space. This one, you know, going through all the expansions, I actually think that they're great. All right, I think they'll add a lot of longevity and variation to the base game. So this game might have the best legs out of all of them because of the expansion. All right, so we're going to be playing it for a long time. Alright, so that's a couple of the reasons why I'm really excited for Ankh. Now, if we're going to talk about value, the value is kind of out of this world. Even if you get just the base game, which I don't even know if which expansions I ordered, but off the top of my head, I don't remember. But it was $100, and just like most CMON games, what I would recommend is just get the base game if you can, because you're going to get 2 gigantic boxes. So you're going to get the base game, and you're going to get all these stretch goals. And it's fair to say that CMON makes most of their money just selling off the expansions because they're so overpriced. But if you got just the base game, it was just fantastic value. The expansions, not that great of a value, but it is what it is. All right, and finally, we get to my number one game that I backed, that I'm the most excited for. I really just wanted to have one dungeon crawly type of game on my list, and the one I picked, you know, it might be a Hail Mary. I'll explain why, and it's going to be Nova Aetus Renaissance from Ludus Magnus Studio. Now, the reason I say it's sort of a Hail Mary is I'm hoping, because this is probably the most ambitious game that I've seen in all of 2020, and it's from Ludus Magnus Studio, who sort of has a sketchy past, and you know, they could fail on some massive projects, but hopefully this one is great. And the reason I picked this one over other dungeon crawly games, to be fair, is I think it's the most robust gameplay wise. I really love the whole clock system. I forget what that clock system is called, but it's sort of Glenmore style, where you can do a massive action and then other people can do littler actions to do multiple actions in a row, but then you'll have to wait if you do a bigger action. So that's a great system. I love the way the missions work. You have these mission packs, so you're working through mission packs. Almost think of it like can't really think of another example, but like Time Stories, where you're going through mission packs. I love the way that the story always evolves when you're on the map. So if you're playing like 4 players, you can have one player that's in the inn talking to the innkeeper, while the other 3 players are outside fighting the brigands, waiting for you to come outside, and then you finally join them outside, and then one guy could be healing outside while the other guys are inside the inn talking to the innkeeper. Just everything evolves on the map, and I really love it. I also like it that it's a manageable campaign system. It's only like 25 to 30 hours, the base game is, and then after you can actually play the campaign multiple times, because I think there's 4 or 5 different endings in the game depending on how you play. So that's all fantastic things. Just a lot of ambition in this game, plus there's a lot of expansions. This one I did back most of the expansions. Hopefully it's going to be good. Hopefully they don't let us down and have any issues overall. There's also the dice system I forgot to talk about. They're all it's all on D8 using symbols, custom dice, all a great system with 3D elements as well. Oh, and before I forget, there's also crafting in the game, which is also fantastic. Alright, so those are the top 5 that I backed that I'm really excited for. Let me know below which ones you backed that you're excited for. Let's go to the other top 5. Alright, so let's tackle the other top 5, which is the top 5 games I didn't back that I'm the most excited for to get on the table. Alright, so here I'm going to have a couple of honorable mentions, because again, I said I didn't really want any reprints, and technically the first 2 here are reprints or 2.0. So you have Cartographer Heroes, the best roll and write ever made. Here we're talking about a 2.0 better version of it. Reasons I didn't back it, I didn't really see the need to at all. You're not going to get any exclusives whatsoever. Just wait till it comes out in retail and spend 20 bucks on it. All right, it's not that expensive of a game. It's going to come out in retail guaranteed. Just go get it then. So, you know, before we start, maybe I'll have a video of this in the future, why you would want to back games. For the exclusives, for the value proposition was probably the most important thing, and to make sure you get it. Right, so if it's not hitting, you know, 2 or 3 of those things, try not to back the game. Save some money and just get in retail later. If you don't want to be sort of a completionist. If you're a completionist, well, then you really don't have a choice. You want to get it, right? So the other thing you could have got in this campaign was sort of the big box thing, where you can fit the 1st and 2nd edition inside. We came with 3 maps, but then you end up spending like 50 bucks with shipping, 75 bucks. You know, and this is an $18 game, right? So do you want the colored pencil and the 3 map packs that you can sort of get in retail later? Again, it ended up being really more expensive than it needed to be, especially for such a small game. So I still really want to play it. I want to see the changes they made and get it down to the table, but I really didn't see the need to back it. All right, sort of my second honorable mention, sort of the exact same thing. Kemet 2.0, it's coming to retail, guaranteed. Blood and Sand. You know, I pretty much have everything Kemet 1.0. It is one of my top 3-5 dudettes on a map type of game. It's just a phenomenal game. Couple of reasons I didn't back it, but I'm still excited to get it to the table, is the value proposition just wasn't there. I think there were like 2 monsters, 4 tiles, 10 plastic obelisks, and that's all you would get thrown into the base game if you would get the base game. And the base game for this will cost you $100, so it's probably on par with what you're going to pay in retail. So just a really expensive value proposition for not much benefit. All right, if they would have added a bunch of extra stuff like most campaigns do, I would have probably backed it, but because it was just a limited additions that they were adding in there, I didn't see the need. Plus I already have an organizer using sleeves for the tiles. I really didn't need the plastic organizer for the tiles that they were adding in. So just a couple of reasons I didn't want to sort of put my money towards it, but I'm still looking forward to playing it because it is a great game altogether. All right, so let's get to my top 5. My 5th choice here is going to be Chronicles of Crime. This is just a fantastic sort of experience game where you're being detectives and you're trying to figure out the crime. You have this board. I don't know if you've played Chronicles of Crime, but I highly recommend that if you've not played Chronicles of Crime to go out and go purchase it with all the expansions. All right, so this is just a fantastic game. It is probably my wife's favorite game because, again, it's not really a game and you can play cooperatively, and she really gets into the whole story and trying to figure out who killed who. All right, so that's great. Now, the reason I didn't back it, I'm gonna have to talk about that with all these picks here, but I didn't back it because there was no need to. All right, I'm okay with the I'm not a completionist when it comes to Chronicles of Crime. I'm okay getting the retail edition of these 3 games. They're gonna come out in retail guaranteed. It's a huge publisher. The first game did really well. Most of these exclusives will be apps that you can purchase on the website anyway for like $2-3 when they're on special, or $5 even if you want a new. You still get access to the community built missions, and you'll have all the cards as well. So I really didn't see a need. I didn't really need the neoprene mat that we're adding and all that sort of stuff. And if you would have got all of them, it would have costed you over $100, when each game on retail would probably cost you like $25 or less. So again, get it secondhand or getting it in retail was probably a better choice for personally me. But if you want to be a completionist, there are like 2 or 3 extra missions that you would get that you wouldn't be able to get if you don't back it. All right, so that's Chronicles of Crime. Still looking forward to it. It's still a great game. So my number 4 is going to be Cascadia. All right, so this looks to be the best, in my mind, family weight game that came out in 2020. These are the same guys that did Calico in 2019, and that game is phenomenal as well. This one's a pretty simple drafting game. You have a line of tiles and you have a line of animals, so every turn you need to pick one of the animals and tiles and add them to your tableau, and you're going to be placing tiles and animals to try to score the most points according to a bunch of scoring cards that are going to be shown every single round. Now, I'm really looking forward to this. This looks to be in the same weight as Azul, Splendor, that family weight perfect style game. Now, the reason I didn't back it is I always have problems backing these $20 to $35, $40 games on Kickstarter because it just doesn't end up being worth it in the end. You know, you're just getting the base game $30 and you got to pay $15, $20 shipping, and you know, comparing it to the retail edition of the game, you don't really get much for that price difference. Sometimes you pay 2.5 times the price for the retail edition. So you know, especially if it's a family weight game like this, even though I really wanted the Kickstarter edition, I didn't see the need to pay for it. The Kickstarter edition did come with 5 extra animal cards and the wooden token instead of cardboard tokens. You know what, for this style of game, I think I'll be okay with the cardboard tokens, but still, you know, if you backed it, it's good. I think you'll enjoy it. It looks to be a really great game, so that would be my number 4. My number 3 is going to be Flourish. Sort of in the same vein as Cascadia, really good family weight game. This is another drafting game, but this time you're going to be drafting 3 cards, passing 1 to the player on your left, passing 1 to the player on your right, using 1 to put in your tableau. Let me try to find a good picture here. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be building a 3x4 grid in front of you, and there's a lot of long-term decisions to be made. Every single time you play down a card, you're deciding whether you're putting it down to score for that round, but also the symbols on them will score for other cards coming further down in your tableau. So a lot to think about. The art is fantastic. You can get your family really into it. It's using a lot of colorful plant life here, so seems to be a fantastic family weight, again, Splendor, Azul type of game. Now, why didn't I back it? Pretty much the exact same reason as Cascadia. I didn't see the need to back it. I'll be okay with the retail edition. I believe the Kickstarter edition added some 3D tokens, like these 3D walls and stuff like that. And you know what, again, if you're gonna look at the price overall and then compare it to the retail edition, sometimes you sort of have to decide that, you know what, let me just get the retail edition, I'll be okay. Again, and this is from Starling Games, and all their games come out in retail, so I have no worries about getting it later. I can pretty much say the same thing about Cascadia. Flat Out Games, Calico, you can find it in retail. I'll be able to get it in retail. All right, so there you go. So my number 2 is going to be Transcontinental, and actually this one is one that I'm circling back on and I might back. All right, so if I were to remake this list, maybe this one won't even be on because it'll be on my back list. All right, so this one seems to be the best pure Euro game that I saw in 2020, and I'm really excited to actually give it a shot and get it down to the table. So this is a sort of worker placement game where, I don't know how to show you here, where you're going to be placing down workers, but you're going to be resolving the workers from right to left and then from left to right using the workers that people didn't put out. But every time you put a worker on the left hand side of the resources here, you sort of get to decide which of the two cards you're going to activate on the top or the bottom. But remember, you're activating them in order, so the one that you really wanted might have gotten used, and so on and so on. So a lot of interaction between the players, and it has this really cool mechanism here where you're placing all your resources on this train, so there's limited amount of spots. So if I put 4 coal on the train, maybe nobody else can put coal on the train because there's no more space on the train, right? Because the train comes with us to the left and to the right. Really engaging Euro mechanism. It looks really good. Now, like I said, I circled back. I wasn't originally gonna back it, but now I don't know if it's gonna come out in retail, so it's only $67 for pretty much the whole game. Find a buddy, get 2 copies for $134, and remember, this is Canadian for you guys, so this is probably less than 50 bucks American. So just a really good Euro-ish game, and I'm really looking forward to getting this to the table. And my number 1 is going to be Frosthaven. So a lot of people are going to be wondering why I didn't back this. And you know what? I was there on day 1, in hour 1, probably in the first 30 minutes. I pledged to this game, and I was really excited to pledge for it. But the problem is, the more that the campaign like grew, and the more that people were jumping on, I sort of was telling to myself more and more, why am I backing this in the first place? All right, so there's probably a handful of reasons why I'm not backing it. Right, first and most obvious is this is coming to retail for sure. All right, and this might be reason number 2, but the value proposition is pretty much the same. All right, I don't think you're going to be saving that much money getting it in retail, because this base game is $100. If you add shipping, it's gonna be $120, $130. If you convert that to Canadian, you're gonna end up paying that exact amount if you're getting it in retail for that amount for the game. Now, third reason, there's pretty much no exclusives whatsoever. What you're gonna get, what the Kickstarter is pretty much what you're gonna get in retail. Somebody can write down. I pretty much went through the whole page. Maybe I missed something, but what's in Kickstarter is going to be what's in the retail game. All right, so why bother getting in retail? I might as well just wait. Fourth reason is I'm getting probably 5 or 6 different campaign games delivered to me in 2021. Even if I back this and I'm really excited to play this, there's no chance that I'm going to get to play this right away. So one of the reasons of getting a game back in a game is to get it early so you can get it down to the table. There's no way I would be able to play this within the first 6 months, even a year from getting it, because it is so long of a game. Even though I forgot to mention it before, Gloomhaven is my favorite game of all time. It is fantastic. Just the greatest mechanisms in a dungeon crawl ever created. You know, it's adding things like a whole city board, so you're managing the city, and I love doing that city management thing. There's a whole crafting system, so it's really engaging. You're just picking up items to craft your own gear. Just really good additions. It's based on my favorite game of all time. You'd think that I want to back it. You know, I'm just gonna buy it in retail. That's why I'm really excited to play it, but I have no worries waiting even a year after it comes out, playing it after with my buddies and all that stuff. So that's why I didn't back it. So those are going to be my top 10 overall games that I'm really excited for that were crowdfunded in 2020. Let me know what your list is below, and we'll see you in the next list.